You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Lucy Norris, and on today's episode, I'm chatting with founder and CEO of Viv for Your V, earth-friendly period care delivered straight to your door. Growing up in Tampa, Florida, surrounded by a large family filled with entrepreneurial spirit, it wasn't a huge surprise that this week's guest would go on to create something of her own. Moving to Boston to study marketing and managing social impact, it was during an assignment for an elective that her idea was born. Realizing the harmful impact period pads were having on the environment, she set out to find the solution, and so was the beginning of the bamboo fibre, 95% biodegradable product she is behind today. Sharing how she brought her vision to life, here's what it's like to be Katie Yara Diasti. Katie has kindly offered listeners of What It's Like with Luce a discount on Viv, so use What It's Like 10 at the checkout to get money off your first order. Welcome, Katie. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. How I like to kick things off with everyone is if we could just go back to the very beginning and chat a bit about what it was like for you growing up in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yes, growing up in Tampa was interesting. I was very much a Florida girl, but I grew up with a big Egyptian American family, which was so fun. And I grew up with all of my cousins, like 20 of them within 10 minutes away from me. So spent a lot of time with my family growing up and had a lot of uncles that I realize now were very entrepreneurial and were very into starting their own businesses. So I think that like entrepreneurial spirit is naturally in my blood too. And also growing up seeing them build businesses my whole life was super fascinating. And I was raised actually by a single mother. So I've always been really passionate about women's empowerment and like how amazing women are and like all they can do has been at the forefront of my mind since I was very young. So that's been a big part of who I am. And then when it came to going to college, I was ready to leave Florida and I just wanted seasons so badly, honestly. It was like so warm there, which is amazing. But I was so excited just to see fall leaves change and snow in the winter time. So I ended up going up to Boston for college.
And I believe you studied in and around business further there when you went. So can you tell me what that experience was like, and then maybe what drew you towards women's health technology whilst you were there?
So I went to Boston College and I was in this undergrad business program there, and I was focusing in on marketing, and I minored in something called managing social impact. So studying how brands and companies are implementing social responsibility and sustainability into their practices. And that was interesting. There were times when I was in business school when I was just like pushing through my accounting and finance classes and was just dreading it. But once I hit those branding classes, I realized how excited I was about brand partnerships and building brands and all that entailed. And then I got to my senior year and I was in this entrepreneurship class, and it was just like an elective. I wasn't even quite sure like what entrepreneurship truly meant then, of course. It was simply more to like finish homework assignments. But I had to do a project the entire semester, and it was just like find a problem, come up with a solution for it, like classic entrepreneurship style. And I ended up looking into like the hygiene space, particularly for women, and I was looking at like razor brands, beauty brands, all of these things, and was personally trying to be more sustainable in my life by reducing plastic waste. I was bringing my cup around to the coffee shops, like very minimal things, but things that I was like actively really trying hard to do. And then I was researching some brands that were trying to like enter the period care space a bit further, and was realizing that they were doing some good things, but still had a lot of plastic waste involved. And it's amazing like how much I learned just from doing deeper research that we never knew about our hygiene products and our bodies prior. And I found that one typical traditional menstrual pad that you'd find at a drugstore was equal to about 4 plastic bags of waste. So after learning that statistic, I was like, oh my gosh, like there needs to be a better alternative. And I couldn't find one that I felt really comfortable using. So I'm sure that other young people felt the same way, and just started building a brand like completely around that concept.
So then you found this gap in the market. That was obviously the problem that you wanted to solve for your assignment. But then how did you take it from a college project into, you know, a real life thing and putting it out on the market for real?
Oh my goodness, yes. So I was working really, really hard in this class. I was kind of ignoring all my other classes, to be frank, just because I was so passionate about this idea and didn't really quite realize it in the moment. But I was going to the science department and I was a business student, so that was a bit odd for me. And even asking professors there about new sustainable fibers. And I was going to my old like marketing research professors and having them help me build surveys to understand like what people actually want and what they know about their products. And then I got to the end of that class and I had to do a pitch, and that was just my final. And so I gave the pitch, and I started like taking down a bunch of notes after on feedback. And technically I should have been like on winter break. It was my senior year. Winter break, I was about to be second semester senior, like shouldn't have a care in the world, but I was like very excited to make it even better the next time. And so I realized in that moment, I wasn't really just doing like a homework assignment, but I wanted to keep going with this and build a business out of it. And then luckily my university was having this like awesome like weekly workshop and access to mentors and all these things that can teach you how to actually make an idea into a real business, because I had absolutely no idea how to do that at the time. So I spent my second semester senior year like Thursday nights at workshops late at night, and like on the weekends we would do these things called like hustle hours at like 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. And it was just so exciting to me, and I like loved it, but it was definitely different than some of what my peers were spending their time doing. But then after graduating, I technically had a full-time job on the horizon that I had signed like during the fall time of my senior year, but jumped into an accelerator anyway, where I was able to actually start like building Viv and like identifying manufacturers, and we started an online community and started building like what this brand would truly look like and entail for everybody. So that was really cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. And it must have been, as you said, such an exciting time for you, especially since, you're just coming out of college and everything. Maybe the most daunting thing about taking on this would have been kind of the sciencey parts behind it, because obviously, you did business.
Yeah.
So, and there is so much, like it's quite a complicated thing to be able to put together such, I think it's 95% biodegradable, your product, which is amazing. So can you talk me through how you went about securing that and figuring it all out when it was just you on your own?
Yeah, that was very interesting because at the time I was like, okay, I have to do everything myself. Like I have to be an expert in everything. And I didn't realize that you can ask for help, or you can bring people on that are experts in other things. And like, you don't have to know it all going in. But I instead like finally realized I needed help. So I would contact people that have done this before, that have built products, that understood this space really well. So then I could learn from them about what to do next. And then that helped me understand like what manufacturing meant, and like how to create new products, and how to find like new materials based on what you want as a sustainable brand. And we've been really, really cautious to date about what we put the Viv brand on, because we don't want to promote anything that is greenwashing, as in like it's not truly sustainable, but we're going to throw all these fun words on it and pretend it is. That's just like not in my core values. That's not in the Viv brand core values or any of our teams. So it was definitely like a slower process to me. At least it felt like getting a product out there, because I wanted to be like super cautious about what we're actually giving to customers.
And I know that you also have, so you went with a more subscription-based model. Can you talk me through why you went down that route? Just from an outsider looking in, it seems that it might have been an easier way for you guys to make sales and enter the market if it was just, a product on a shelf rather than a subscription-based model. So can you tell me why you decided to do it that way?
Yeah. This one was interesting because I think it was a pain point that I was experiencing a lot in my life. And I was spending a lot of time when I was in college just doing like focus groups and like talking to friends and doing interviews with people about like their purchasing habits for period care. And so many of us were like, oh my gosh, I always like forget until I have like one pad left or like one tampon left, and I have to run to the store, and it's like this very dramatic, like stressful experience. And I experienced that like way too often during
Me
my time
too.
of like running out to stores. And I don't know what it is. Like I've heard it's a like Gemini thing, and I'm a Gemini, and like my phone's always dying, and like I was always running out of period products. It was just like who I was as a person. I realized so many other people were having this problem. And I was like, we have subscriptions for so many other parts of our lives, and we're such busy people. Like we use the term like modern menstruators to describe our audience, because it's like we have so much on our plate. Like we're running from like meetings to like workouts to like all of these extracurriculars. Like we're just doing a lot of things. Like if a brand can just take care of this one thing for me and just have my products delivered to my door and I don't have to worry about it, that's one less stressor in my life. And so that's exactly why I wanted it to be a subscription brand, because like personally and to so many people I talk to, it's like, why can't it just come to me and I don't have to worry about it anymore? Like I'm going to continue to need these products. And of course, everyone's body and period is very different. So when it comes to like how frequently are they arrive, we're really like customizable with that. So it's like you can pick between every 3 to 8 weeks of like how frequently you want them to come, and all of that. But it's like just having it arrive before I even remember that I need them has been such a savior.
And so then can you just take me back to launch day, the day that you're releasing this out to the world, and how it was initially received once it went out onto the market?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was really fascinating. And of course, going back, I would have done like 15 things differently. But I feel like everybody says that. But yeah, I was just so excited because once we like had our manufacturing in place and we were ready to go, we actually launched pre-orders first. That's how excited I was. I was like, people need to like sign up before it's even here, which was really cool. And then like the first 3 weeks we sold like 700 boxes. So I was like, okay, like people are into this, like they want this product, like we're onto something. So that gave me a lot of more confidence to like run with things further. And in January we got all of our products in and did more of like full proper launch. But that was fascinating to just see that initial reaction during pre-orders. But that's been the best part, is we wanted to launch quickly so that we can learn a lot from our customers and have them tell us exactly what they want out of their products, how they're liking it. And if they ever don't like something, like we want to be able to change that fairly quickly. So that was kind of the idea of launching pre-orders then too.
I love that. And as you said, like as we've been talking through this whole thing, I just think it's so apparent how much of a problem this actually is and how quickly we do need to solve it. So can you maybe tell or explain to us as the general person that doesn't really know too much about it, what a massive problem this would solve if everyone went sustainable with their period care?
Yeah, seriously. And we've done a lot of more like analytics and studies on how much plastic waste period care is creating, but also plastic as not just the end all be all. So our products are made out of a bamboo fiber core, which is actually a much more sustainable crop than like regular cotton. And it uses a lot less water and a lot less land, and it grows like really fast. So it's even a bit more affordable as a product. So we're reducing a lot of what we call agro waste by even just switching the core materials of our product. So we're doing that, but we're also reducing plastic usage, and not making plastic saves a ton of water and a ton of carbon emissions. So then we're like, okay, by not using plastic, so we're saving all of this CO2 emissions. And then we were looking further and we were saying that like the access to sustainable products is fairly limited, and who can afford sustainable products. So we were finding that on a shelf throughout stores. If you look at like the clean beauty section or like the clean households cleaners, then those tend to be like a few dollars more at least. And we didn't think that was fair. It's like we don't think you have to choose between your wallet and the earth anymore. We want to ensure that anyone can access it just like they were accessing traditional products that were filled with toxins and were filled with plastic. And so by looking at new fibers like bamboo fiber, we realized that these products could be the same price as those traditional products, and they're more sustainable. So customers no longer have to make this like up and down in their head if they want to be cheap or if they want to be sustainable. So there's so many different players and variables here, but those are just a few of them.
Yeah, no, I think because I do think that is a big barrier to entry with sustainable products like clothing, anything to do with sustainability, is that it does seem, whether it is the case or not all the time, it's just being portrayed as a more expensive way of living. So I think that's so interesting. Obviously, like, worth it, but like, when you do have to make that choice, if you're a broke student or something like that, it's hard. So it's really interesting to hear that you've navigated your way around that.
Thanks. It's definitely one of our like values as a brand.
And so what would you say are your ultimate goals for this company, or what would you love to see it do?
Yeah, oh my gosh, we have so many goals all the time. And I want to continue to be like innovators in this space and taking everything one step further. And it's like, okay, there was some toxin-free products that existed before us, but we're plastic-free and we're changing the material and we're like innovating in so many other ways. And so we want to continue to innovate and even prototype and make the lives of menstruators and people with periods that much easier. So if it's like changing a design that should have been changed ages ago, but we're now people that actually have periods that are innovating in this space, it's making it a lot easier. And like, to give you some context, the first tampon was invented in the 1920s by a man, and it really hasn't been changed much since. So there's plenty of room to grow in this space if we can actually get people that are having a period involved with the actual design and innovation. So we've been playing around with adding more to our product line. So like short term, that's a bit more of the goals, is getting more products based on what customers want, that they can, in a brand they can like really trust and like feel proud buying from. And then we also want to just expand our reach a bit more and of course grow a lot more as well and get our name out there and be more of a common name, because it's an easy swap to make for so many people that want to start like voting with their dollars and making more eco-conscious decisions.
So going back to you as a founder, you're obviously, still really young, and you've already launched this incredible world-changing product, because as you've demonstrated there, it really will make such an impact on how the planet will grow in the next few years. So do you have a personal definition of what the word success would mean for you?
Ooh, I love this question. This is a tough one because my idea of success has changed so much over the past few years. But I would say it's causing more people to think critically about their decisions, like based on purchasing, but also the choices that they're making in their own life. And so if I can create a mission or a brand that allows people to rethink or learn in a new way, that would be amazing. That would be my form of success.
And then I just have one more question for you, and I'm going to let you get on with your morning, I think it is for you over there. If I put your 10-year-old self in front of you today, I know, throwing all the deep ones at the end, having been through everything you've been through, both in life and then in terms of your career, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give that 10-year-old self moving forward?
Wow. Oh my goodness. My 10-year-old self is like hilarious to think about. With like probably her Crocs on and gauchos and such, like a hilarious outfit. But I would say that like don't dull yourself to make other people more comfortable. I think so many young people, and I was definitely one to do this, had so much like fire and excitement in me that was dulled by being around peers that would like judge that. But that's what makes us so unique, and that's what allows us to bring so many beautiful things into the world.
It's been so interesting picking your brain about your product and hearing more about it, because it's an amazing product, and I'm sure it's going to do really big things. So thank you so much for giving up your time and for chatting with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please rate, share, and leave a comment if you like what you hear. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow @WhatIt'sLikePod on Instagram and Facebook to keep up to date with everything that's going on. To find out more about Viv, visit the links in the show notes. I'll be back on Thursday with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luz.